Hello, Darren.
Hi, Darren. You all right?
I'm all right. Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Good.
I'm sort of. I feel like, yeah. I need this. I need some drawing on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
Stressy week.
Yeah. I feel you there.
Um.
I got very grumpy with my colleagues at work yesterday to a point where I had to apologise to them.
um. I. Not what I was intending to talk to you about, but I was in a pretty important residents meeting yesterday.
Yeah.
And I was kind of sort of a ringleader of a certain group that, wants something done. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at one point, I was talking to the directors of our estate, and I said, actually, this is good. This is the first time I've laughed about all this business this week. At one point, I don't know. You're trying to be a great orator. You're trying to, be Lenin or something. And I just said, people are very, very cross. And afterwards, I thought, actually, it's better than swearing. I normally swear or something. I didn't swear.
Yeah, I find it difficult not to swear, I must admit. It's fine.
I tend to defeat. Yeah. No, it's not good, is it? In fact, there was one person there who was really brilliant, actually, who was really sort of textbook showing how to be annoyed, but constantly polite.
Right. That's a skill.
It's a real skill, isn't it? I've heard this phrase before when you're trying to achieve something and the phrase is relentless politeness.
Right.
Never lose your temper, but just stay calm, because you never win if you're the person that loses your rag.
Yeah. It's difficult though. It's difficult.
Anyway, let's not talk about any of that.
No.
I wanted to talk to you about the TV program Hill Street Blues.
Well, what a coincidence, Darren, because I'm painting two of the characters from it. It's almost as if we planned that.
Tell me something of your relationship with the TV program Hill Street Blues.
Blimey. Well, I kind of feel like I never watched it when it first showed. I'm not sure I ever saw a full episode. But at the same time, I definitely knew about it. And it was kind of always there. So it was Channel 4, wasn't it? Yeah, it was Channel 4.
Yeah.
And it was kind of late-ish, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. So when I was like a teenager in the 80s when it was on. So there would have been a point in my early teens where I still might have been a little bit too young to stay up to watch it. But
you're a tiny bit younger than me, aren't you?
Yeah, I think like 18 months or so, something like that.
Yeah, but it's interesting how much those things make a difference when you talk about the pop culture of our youths. Sometimes, just being a year below can make a hell of a difference with, do you remember Rubik's Cubes? Or all that sort of stuff,
Yeah. But, I mean, obviously, the two things that I could have told you about before I recently started watching it again are the theme tune, by Mike Post, the brilliant theme tune, and
brilliant theme tune.
Yeah, really, really good. And the catchphrase "Let's be careful" like that. I could have told you about those things, regardless of having recently started rewatching it.
Yeah, I kind of you watched the first 2 episodes, then I watched the first 2 episodes, and I mentioned it on Twitter a couple of days ago, just sort of hoping to open the conversation about Hill Street Blues. And pretty much every other tweet was just someone saying to me, "Let's be careful out there."
Right, yeah. Which
shows you, how that is perhaps the most iconic thing about the show, that phrase.
Yeah. It's that and the tune, I think. However,
I might be tempted to say that it might be the best TV theme tune ever.
That is, it's not my best one, but it's up there.
It has, the program itself steers such an interesting course between comedy. Sometimes it's faintly surreal.
It is.
Yeah. It really has a lot of different elements to it.
Well, it's like in the second episode, the police station decorator turns up.
Yeah.
That's really, really odd.
and also in the second episode, they have the conference between the gang members, which are hilarious. They have the Irish gang that are dressed up like little leprechauns.
It's like the Warriors.
It's exactly like the Warriors. In fact, I think I'm even wondering, whether there's a nod to that. There's like, but at the same time as well, it's extremely gritty. I think it's the first time I saw American inner city poverty on TV. I think sorry, I'm off my point. My point being is that all of those things are just brought together so perfectly by that theme tune.
Right, yeah.
That theme tune has this beautiful kind of ennui to it. And there was a couple of TV programs that did something similar. Taxi, which I think will come up again in my conversation. Taxi also has the same thing. Taxi is essentially a sitcom, and yet it pushed at the edges of that and has this theme tune that has this little bit of melancholy.
The theme tune, again, is wonderful, Taxi.
I'm not even sure if it's the same person, actually.
It's not. I checked, and I can't remember who it was, but it's not the same person.
Oh, because Hill Street Blues is Mike Post.
Yeah.
I know what it was. I think the guy that did the theme tune, the end credits to Incredible Hulk, also did the theme tune to Taxi.
The sad piano.
The sad piano, yeah.
Yeah. But in fact, I listened to the Taxi theme recently and found the album an album called Touchdown. It's a collection. It's Bob James did Taxi, and the tune's called Angela.
It is called Angela. Well done.
Yeah.
And I think you might find that both the Taxi theme tune and the Hill Street Blues theme tune were big hits in the US.
Right.
Like proper, top 10
Chart
hits.
hits. That's unusual.
Yeah.
You don't get many instrumental TV show themes that are hits over here, I don't think.
Okay, then. That's a good tangent. What TV themes have been hits in the UK? I'm saying that, thinking I can't think of any.
But Doctor Who has found its way into KLF stuff, but not actually hitting itself. Don't think.
No.
No, I can't think of any.
Perhaps that's a thing to go away and prepare on for another day.
Yeah. Do some homework.
Yeah. I used to go to Cubs on a Thursday, and then that turned into Scouts on a Friday. Yeah. And my dad used to pick me up from Scouts. And as an aside, I used to hate Cubs and Scouts, and I used to be bullied a bit there.
Yeah.
But my dad would pick me up, and we would go to the fish and chip shop, and we'd have fish and chips. And I think Scouts ended at 9:30 or something. And it was the latest I could stay up at the time.
Yeah.
And Channel 4 on Fridays used that sort of time to show these American shows. And so I think Cheers was one. Then Taxi would be another.
Cheers, another very unusually melancholic theme tune.
Cheers.
Yeah.
In a way, yeah. In a way.
I don't think it's very jolly for a out and out comedy.
It's one of those lyrics that has a double meaning, doesn't it? Yeah. It's sort of like, in a way, you initially hear it and he's singing like, wouldn't you go to a place where you had no troubles? Yeah. But then sometime, I was thinking about this the other day when somebody suggested it in the conversation, and I thought, but actually it's a hymn to drinking alone, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Like there's only one place everyone knows your name, and that's your local bar. You drunk. Strongly identify. And I thought that all of those programs, but particularly Hill Street Blues, was a real little, I don't know, I feel like a pivotal first glance of adulthood. Right. I thought Hill Street Blues was really grimy. I just couldn't get over how grimy and dirty Hill Street Blues, how dirty the police station was.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that Belka, I remember this specifically from the first episode, because that police station is so chaotic.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe that Belka was a police officer. And I think they sort of, in a way, deliberately threw you on that. I think you weren't necessarily supposed to know immediately, because he looked and dressed in every single way like a criminal. But I mean, that was the thing, wasn't it? He was always deep undercover, wasn't he?
Yeah, and behaves like one.
Behaves like a dog.
Yes,
he growls and stuff. And once again, that's a sort of, he is one of the more surreal characters, really, isn't he?
Yeah.
And it's sort of, the program seemed to make me, I don't know, it seemed to make me think, is adult life like this? Are police stations like this? Is the real world out there confused, and are they all just children as well? Which, of course, I suppose it is, isn't it? I suppose it's like a program about, nothing particularly works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it, and like you, really enjoyed watching. Have you gone any further? I've just watched the first 2 episodes. Have you watched any
I've
more?
watched the third one as well. And the president still hasn't arrived. The third one does follow on from the second one.
Yeah, which once again, that's a kind of bold little story to kick off your series with, isn't it? Like
it is, and it's good the angle they take. In that, I think a lot of television programs would have been, "Whoa, the president's coming! It's great." But in this one, the president's coming, and everyone's like, "Oh no!" All the effort we're going to have to go to make this a success.
I think that
Barillo's like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, I think that is another way of sort of the thing I'm saying about this sort of adult world. About it didn't have that kind of. I don't know. I'm trying to think what would have been on the BBC or over here at the time. I don't know, Juliet Bravo or something, and in any sort of police procedural I'd seen on TV, the bottom line would be that they wanted to catch the bad guys. I think Hill Street Blues is one of the first programs where you question actually who are the good guys and bad guys.
Yeah.
Is it necessarily the police every week? And it often isn't. Although I think that go on.
That gets more confused in the third episode as well.
Yeah, and I think the way they pull it off, and I think really, we can come on to favourites soon. But the way they pull it off, I think, is with Furillo.
Yeah.
At the centre of it, you have this police captain who everyone loves, even the people on the street. He's like,
even the gangs.
Yeah, even the gangs say, no, we'll talk to Furillo. We won't talk to any of you other pigs.
Yeah. I imagine that bit rings true. I imagine there were police chiefs out there like that who had that sort of relationship. They're just about stopping the neighbourhood from boiling over.
Yeah.
Just about holding everything together with a mixture of diplomacy, threats, and the occasional bribe to keep everyone sweet.
I have
not as much bribe in terms of promises. We'll do this for you if you behave. We'll get you a basketball court, things like that.
Oh yeah, there's that good bit in the first episode where he does that deal with the gang member, and one of the ways he negotiates with him is they'll give his mum a lift to church on Sunday.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
I have a short Hill Street Blues quiz for you.
Oh God.
Which may actually, I thought I had 3 questions, but I seem to have forgotten one. Let's see how we go. Oh yes, I know.
Go on.
Right, okay. Here are my 3 Hill Street Blues questions.
Right.
Which British TV police show was created initially as a British version of Hill Street Blues?
Oh my God. I haven't a clue.
The Bill.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
If you think about it, we had very little handheld camera, and that thing that Hill Street Blues, where the camera wobbles all the time, was really quite unheard of to give that sort of force. And that kind of faux documentary thing was a direct influence on the Bill to make it look like it was a TV crew, and just let's have a police station with all their lives in it. And although, it's not very much like Hill Street Blues because Britain, but well done.
Yes.
Here's my second Hill Street Blues question for you. Where is Hill Street? Where is the TV series set?
Oh, this is interesting because, see, I'm assuming it's New York. Am I right or wrong?
Well, kind of you are, but go on, you finish what you were going to say.
Have I got to come up with a specific area of New York?
Well, okay, then it's a trick question. It's a trick question. Right. They never once mentioned the name of the city in 7 years of the program.
Right.
So it's actually set in a fictional city. I think you would be forgiven for thinking it's, Brooklyn or something. But if you look on the police cars, nothing says which city it is. Nothing in the station does. They just talk about the city and the area. And I don't know. I sort of like that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it could. I mean, it feels New York. It could equally be Chicago.
It could be Chicago, couldn't it? If I was better on US accents, I could maybe sort of tell you where accents were from the guys. I think I think some of them are definitely New York accents, aren't they, in the cast?
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously not Texas. It's obviously north of the USA. Well, you've got the token Texan guy in the Renko.
Yeah.
He's like, everyone calls him Cowboy. But yeah, it feels like a northern town, northern city.
And my last question is, when the actor who played the roll call sergeant passed away, they replaced him with I'm not going to ask you who the actor is or anything like that, but what was the replacement catchphrase after Be careful out there? So for something like the 5th and 6th series, they had a different roll call sign off. What was it?
Right. Mine, very, very British. Mind how you go.
It was, let's do it to them before they do it to us.
All right. Okay.
Which is quite shocking in a way, isn't it? I mean, we sort of have a bit more
aggressive than let's be careful.
Yeah. I think there's an episode where somebody says it's too aggressive, and this is only because I just went on Wiki before all this. I just pulled out a few facts. But apparently there's an episode later on where someone suggests that isn't the best thing to say, and they sort of suggest, let's do our job before they do theirs. Right.
Yeah.
But it doesn't catch on.
Of course it doesn't. Some of the characters quite odd, aren't they? We've mentioned Belka. Very odd character. And the other is the don't even know his name. The guy who he kind of leads the SWAT team.
Yeah.
With his flak jacket on.
Yeah, here you go. I'll help us a little bit with this. I'll get some facts up. Because actually, this isn't a very smart thing to say when we're forgetting these things, but actually, they all have very memorable names, actually.
Well, they do, except you're not introduced to the names instantly. I only got Belka's name on the 3rd episode. And they do Hunter. Say it on the first one. But
the character you're looking for is Howard Hunter.
Howard, of course it's Howard, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's an incredibly it's a very now kind of character, isn't it, Howard Hunter?
He's very now.
Like, he's in the police, but he really wants to be in the army.
Yeah.
And
his whole that character.
And his whole thing about how policing should be done is, shoot them, basically.
Yeah.
Shoot everyone, put them in cages. Um, I have
Yeah, it
another
is. That's
question.
how it is.
I have another question for you. Let me just check
Right.
this, because I just saw this briefly before I started talking to you, and I thought, oh yeah, I remember this. Hill Street Blues, and I always like this in TV. I always think this is interesting when this happened. Hill Street Blues, as well as inspiring The Bill, also produced one spin-off series. Do you know anything about that?
Feel like I should do. Is it the same writer? Is it Steve Rothko, the writer? Was it Law and Order?
No. But do you remember the character Bunce, who comes in later, and he's the guy that ends up in NYPD Blue?
Right. No, I don't remember.
The actor is Dennis Franz.
Right.
I bet you will. I bet if you looked at just Dennis Franz, you go, oh yeah, he's in Hill Street Blues, but he's later. And he played a character called Bunce. And then they made a spin-off which didn't work, which was called Beverly Hills Bunce.
That's why it didn't work.
And it's about him resettling in Beverly Hills as a policeman.
What's a name? These two characters I'm painting now.
Well, I know. Let me blow up my screen. So, yes, we know who they are.
Yeah. So we've got Renko and Hill.
Yeah.
I think they're great.
Do you feel?
You go on.
They could also be considered to be the lead characters sometimes, couldn't they?
Yes, I was going to say that. Aside from Farillo, they feel like the heart of the show at the moment.
Yeah.
And you've got this thing where you've seen it in the first episode right at the end, which was also the pilots. They get shot. And then they're coming back, and still in the second episode, they're both back on duty after spending time in intensive care. And
true, but they make you wait for it, don't they?
They do, yeah. You're wondering, is that it?
You watch quite a lot of the second episode, and you think, oh, did they die?
Yeah.
And then they sort of revealed that the second episode is actually quite a time jump, and that they've sort of recuperating and in hospital.
Yeah. And then you got this conflict between them that they don't want to speak about it to each other. And when they do speak about it, they're just arguing, and this kind of like it's not as much as blaming each other as maybe blaming themselves. There's a guilt attached to it about what happened to them.
Yeah, it's really well written, isn't it? And it speaks to PTSD and all of those things, but it also is, two straight guys and their inability to show affection to each other. Yeah. Because clearly they are the most important person in the other person's life. They nearly died together. Yeah. And it's strange to think of the language of TV being that subtle and that advanced. You think of something, being made in 1981, just really still the 70s. You think of, you might assume there'd be a lot of naivety in TV writing and stuff, but it's art, isn't it? It's really good. Yeah. And really long, that scene in the toilet, which goes out to the locker room. Yeah. It's about 10 minutes long, that whole scene where they try and deal with the fact that they both nearly died.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good. There's more of it as well in episode 3. They more arguing and a lot of emotional stuff with them too,
which is also good because like another more typical TV way of writing that situation would be for them to have had that scene that I was just talking about, and then for that to be it. That would be a sort of possibly an EastEnders way of dealing with something, like in TV and films, because of the runtime, people only ever talk about something once.
Yeah.
The resolution is one conversation, but in life, you don't split up with your partner after one conversation in the Vic.
No.
It's always a slow process, which takes a long time.
Yeah. No, they're handled really well. I'm looking forward to seeing how they turn out in future episodes and what their relationship's going to be like.
I had a stupid idea because I was young and I wasn't looking at the cast. I thought for ages that Denzel Washington was Bobby Hill.
Right.
And when he was starting to act, I was like, oh, that guy from Hill Street Blues is doing well.
I feel like I never saw any of those actors in anything else.
Well, if you as I did just before we started talking, have a little, Hill Street Blues rummage. The first thing that the internet does now is kind of show you how they look now. And that was quite fun.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. Is that mawkish? Are we bad people for always, it's like those spam accounts. You would not believe what Julia Stiles looks like now.
Older.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is my theory. I've said to you before that everything on Twitter is about age and death. I feel like I've made some errors on my picture.
Do you?
Yeah. Well, I found a picture of the police car from Hill Street Blues.
Yeah.
But it's in quite a rural setting. And obviously, really, we wanted some grime behind it. I'm also wondering whether I can continue to make it pop out from that background, because the police car is essentially white. So I think I've got to keep trying to push that green back, yeah?
Right, yeah.
I'm going to leave it for a bit. There's also a lot of... there's a lot of sort of paraphernalia on this car that I need to get on. There's a lot more writing, and I think it's going to have to be one of those pictures where I need to use pen.
Yeah. I'm kind of frightened to do anything else with mine. I'm not. There's more I can do, but I feel like
I'm still a good 10 minutes, quarter of an hour away. Yeah. So if you want, you could start another one.
Possibly. Yeah, I'm going to do that then.
Okay. Well, can I request? Can I request a?
Yeah, you can.
Well, I mean, I'm sort of tempted to be clever about it, but maybe, seeing as you often like to have some words on your pictures, like phrases and stuff. Maybe you should do the desk sergeant. Maybe you should just do the desk sergeant with that phrase. I mean, maybe we shouldn't overthink it, right? I
mean, he might say that phrase, but you know me, I may put words in his mouth.
Yeah, I don't really want to. I wouldn't presume to be part of your vision.
The desk sergeant is another kind of rot in the station, isn't he?
Yeah, and I didn't realise the reason that he was replaced in later seasons was because the actor died whilst they were making it. I didn't realise that.
No, I didn't know. That's sad, that. It's sad. I'm going to sign this. I'm pleased with that. That's nice little portrait there, if I do say so myself.
It's really good. There's something about you've got them both, but Renko, you've got his coloration, a sort of strawberry blonde, slightly drinker or ex-boxer's face about him. There's a slight air of an American Dennis Waterman about Renko.
Yes. Oh, come on. So why couldn't we have had the Hill Street Blues, Sweeney, Minder crossover? Because Hill in this, the painting that I've done, the photo I'm working from, Hill's got a tash, which he doesn't have in the early episodes of Hill Street Blues.
I can sort of picture in a later series him having a tash.
Right. So, but I like painting a tash. I think a tash really helps portrait artists. To be honest, it makes the mouth a little bit easier.
Yeah, but I also find like painting a moustache is really good if you're painting, say, Bobby Ball. Like if you're painting someone who has a moustache, I find it's really good to put the moustache on the face.
Oh, what's that? Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like Colonel. Do you like Colonel?
I don't get it very often, but they do have it up here.
Yeah, I think I did only really recently realised it's local to me.
Right.
And so sometimes, you think a brewery is really massive, but you don't realise it's because they're just around the corner or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still they do sell it in the craft beer shop in Manchester. The only thing I find that Colonel sometimes do lots of the same variations on the same thing, like porters or stouts, and sometimes I want something a little bit different. But that's just because when I go in the craft beer shop, I'm usually treating myself, so I want a big variety of the crazy stuff just to see what it's like.
Is there a beer, not a brand, because obviously we're looking for endorsement at some point, but is there a type of beer that you would really rather say no to?
There is a brand, to be honest. I'd imagine there'd be loads of brands, wouldn't there? I'd probably try. No, I think I'd drink anything. Yeah, there's nothing particular that I'd turn down.
I think I would say it's a rare day when I'm in a mood for a sour.
Yeah, I think sour beers are really good for summer for outdoor drinking. And what I've noticed, the first time I had a sour beer was in Brussels, outside a bar that they say Jacques Brel used to go to. But I'm sure he went to a lot of bars in Brussels, but this was apparently one of his regular haunts. And
Dick Turpin is the one in England, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Have you ever been to an old pub where Dick Turpin didn't stay?
And I had I think it's called Old Boon Gerza, which was that was really nice. But it was also, it's kind of nothing like the sours that you find British craft beer companies making. It was literally tasted more like a champagne sort of sourness, very dry and refreshing. Right. And I feel like all the craft beer companies doing sours are all doing just crazy flavors, like cheese and onion sour, and just it's almost like this craft beer craze for getting the weirdest flavor ever in a beer.
Yeah.
And I just think that the Belgians just do it much better.
Yeah. Yeah, I like a lot of Belgian beer.
Yeah, it's I love Belgian beer. That would be my favourite, really. Right, Esterhaus. I'm going to start worried my pants are all a little bit muddy now.
Sometimes that's really good.
Yeah, it can be.
Sometimes it's really good.
Sometimes it is good. Yeah, but sometimes I think when you're doing skin tones, you kind of have the same colours you keep going back to. I don't like it when I end up the paint's muddy and it's a slightly different colour that I'm used to.
I can look at
this.
certain...
Very tanned here.
Yeah. One thing I often like about TV series when I'm going back, and the thing that you often don't know much about, because it's often easy to remember the iconic bits, and usually what happens with a lot of these TV series is cast tend to leave and they tend to all fade away. And I'm often quite interested in the last episode. And I'm not sure whether I'm quite ready to do a complete Hill Street Blues rewatch. But I think what I might be interested to do is watch the last episode.
Right.
I think it's sometimes interesting to just watch the first and last episode of something, see what happened to it.
I can't remember. I saw the title of the last episode recently. Can't remember what it was now. But it's obviously written with the knowledge that it was going to be the last episode.
Yeah, the cast stays fairly intact. They lose a few and they gain a few, but it's pretty good for 7 years of a program. They've got most of your big hitters are still there.
7 years, and of course these American seasons, they make loads of episodes in one run, don't they? As well,
they did then, didn't they? It was on half the year. And they'd have absolute teams of writers. And that's also, I think, why the cast is so big as well.
Yeah.
So you can sort of have episodes which only concentrate on a couple so other people can have time off and stuff.
Yeah.
Because, it's a massive cast, isn't it? Hill Street Blues.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
The title.
And this is what I was saying about the character names, that in the first episode, I missed a lot of character names because they just come in thick and fast.
Yeah,
and that pilot. It introduces everyone.
There's some quite big characters that have only had a couple of lines so far in the first.
Yeah.
Beverly, the blonde, she's quite an important character, but she's only had a few lines so far.
Yeah. Yeah, she's barely in it. Speaking of her, she was, when the show starts and the music starts and the opening credits are showing the cast.
Yeah.
Hill Street Blues starring, and it shows them all. That was the point that felt really like Proustian to me when I saw all these faces. And it's like, oh, it's him, it's her, it's him. And particularly, what was she called again? The bubbly blonde one.
I think her name's Beverly, but I can't tell you the surname of the character. Yeah,
and oh god, the lawyer who's
Joyce Davenport.
Joyce Davenport. That's it. Yeah, with the twist at the end of episode 1.
Yeah, well, there's 2 twists in the end, isn't there? There's the one twist is that you're sort of two of your main characters are shot, possibly dead. And the other twist is, well, perhaps I shouldn't say it.
For anyone who's not seen it. Good.
Yeah, I think, as I was telling you, I just really like things that are... I really like watching things and rediscovering things that are just on the edge of your memory.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if you'd sat me down a week ago and said, right, how many things you can remember from Hill Street Blues. And then as soon as I started watching it, the amount of dormant things that were coming up in my brain. Oh yeah, because later on this happens to him. Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I was just getting ready to sort of have a go at watching all of Taxi.
Yeah.
So now I'm a bit torn. Because I think I probably have I think I probably watched more of Hill Street Blues when I was young.
Where can we see Taxi?
I don't think you can. I think that. I mean, that wouldn't cost you much, but I think that's like you just have to buy a sort of 20 quid box off of eBay.
Right. Yeah.
And then you'll have to watch the discs.
The bonus of Hill Street Blues is that it's currently on, every show is on all 4.
It is, but did you find it's in a really shoddy quality? Like mine was actually kind of
I'm
like
not
almost
sure.
almost like the digital. No, I don't mean like film grain. I understand that. I understand it's a grubby looking program, but it was actually almost like when I was watching it, it was a weird thing I'd never had on streaming before. Almost like the digital transfer was wrong, like it was glitching slightly.
Right. No, it felt all right to me.
Okay, in that case, it's my TV. Well,
I mean, is that it? Have you done?
what do you think?
Well, it's up to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I've tricked you into drawing longer. Yeah, but it's all right. You carry on.
Well, could always like stop this and have a part 2 if you wanted. A break for the adverts. Let's see, I did do at the start of the episode. Previously on Brentwood Tuxedo.
I'm thinking of maybe drawing a taxi from Taxi.
Right, yeah. Well, why don't we? I think we will. Let's pause this, and then we'll come back to it.
Okay then.
Right.
Well, why don't you at least? Why don't you bring back Hill and Renko?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
I have one. I have one final question for your Hill Street Blues
Quiz.
Quiz.
Yeah.
Which faded indie pop singer from the late 90s covered the theme tune to Hill Street Blues in a session for John Peel?
Would that be you, Darren?
Yeah, I tell you what, it's really, really hard.
I bet it is.
It's a proper bit of music. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those songs where you go, oh, is it a G? No, it's not a G. It's a G. It's all really important. Yeah. You can't bluff it. You've kind of got to do what it is, and it's.
Tell me though, did you sing and just go like Hill Street Blues, Hill Street Blues?
Hill and Renko in Hill Street Blues, Belka too in Hill Street Blues, Morello and Davenport share a bath at the end of each episode.
You've given away the twist.
Renko and Hill do not die.
Yes, they
That's
do.
what I might do. I might sing theme tunes, but always sing the twist in them.
On that note, we are done.
Okay.
Bye, Darren.
Bye, Darren.